أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا وطبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبا القاسم مصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وصلى الله على آل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحنا وجسمنا فداك يا مولانا يا صاحب الأسر والزمان اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Whenever this greatest 8th night comes, I think mu'mineen around the world are both yearning and waiting for having their du'as answered.
Very true.
My brothers, sisters, remember to ask bihaqqi Babul Hawaij Hazrat Abbas this night. Whatever issues you have, exams, illnesses, for your parents, your grandparents, to connect with your Imam, do it through Qamra Bani Hashim Hazrat Abbas.
You know, when you say that, Hazrat Abbas' name always gives me the chills. What an amazing personality.
Absolutely.
And there's so many things that we can learn from him. And where do we start? And there are two things that I would like to discuss, reflecting from his life. One was actually how he stood up and defended Islam, but defended the hijab of Bibi Zainab and the family of the Imam. And the second is on how amazing of a brother he was to the Imam. And there's no enough time to go through all of this, but we'll try and pick up on that.
Before you go in, you just said something. He was an amazing brother. So he was a bloke, a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he defended the hijab. Again, he's a guy, a bloke. MashaAllah. I think that's a very interesting
thing. And it's, you know, when you think about hijab, we think about straight away ladies wearing the scarf, covering their head, covering their body. And yes, that's an identity of a Muslim, an identity of Islam. But hijab is much more than that. And it's not just for ladies. Hijab is for us as well, as men, where we're clearly told to lower our gaze, for example, where we should not even tempt ourselves to look around at forbidden stuff. But the other thing as well is something that we don't pay attention is that we need to cover our bodies as well, right?
That's correct.
So, for example, when we go to the beach or to the swimming pool, when there are non-mahram around as well, we need to make sure that we're not uncovering ourselves, or we need to make sure that we're wearing a shirt or covering ourselves decently, because that's a responsibility on us as well. So that was just something that I wanted to bear in mind, because it's not something that's always...
That's very good. So let's all I remind myself, ourselves, when we go out, think about, is this the right place to wear shorts? Is this the right way to wear certain t-shirts? We have to think about what is the situation, who is around.
Exactly.
It's a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and you raise a good point in the sense that we constantly need to think about the reaction or the consequence of our actions, right? Not just with hijab, but just generally speaking. If what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do, what consequences that going to have, not only to me as my reputation, but remember, each and every one of us are ambassadors of this great religion of Islam. An ambassador, being Shia of Imam Ali, ambassadors of Shia as well. Firstly, we are a minority in terms of being Muslim, and then even more of a minority in terms of being Shia. So we need to make sure that the only way we'll change this perception is by showing how amazing we are as people, right? So just try and think about that when we're going about our day-to-day lives.
I like that very much.
Now, the concept of brotherhood, a very important concept. And like when we see how Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam and Imam Husain alayhi salam, how they interacted with each other and how they led their lives. It's the perfect example that you can get for brother to brother relationship or sibling relationship, as we can say. So something that I think a bit of homework for all of us is that let's try and look at the life of Hazrat Abbas or the life of the Ma'sumin and see how they interacted with each other. See how they interacted with their brothers and sisters, and make sure that that when we go home, we are looking after each other. If we have younger siblings, we are helping them with their work, or we're not bullying them. Or if we have older siblings, we're respecting them, and together we're working together to be able to achieve a lot more than we could achieve on our own. That is one great thing that we learn. But sorry.
No, I think one thing you just said there, I like to just say that each one of you, remember you are an ambassador for your household. And you, most of you, the boys of the annex, or now boys in every continent who is watching, remember that like Hazrat Abbas and Imam Hussein protected the womenfolk, you can also protect your womenfolk.
Very true.
Very good.
Very true. And the last thing I would like to mention is that, you know, when we greet each other, so for example, we've woken up, we go downstairs for breakfast, we say, what's the first thing we say? Salamun alaykum. And what does it mean? Peace be upon you.
MashaAllah.
Yes? Now, have we stopped and thought, what exactly am I saying? Peace be upon you. Whether we're saying it to family, friends, teachers, people outside. Salamun alaykum means my peace is upon you. I will not do anything that will harm you. And then it's highly recommended to initiate the salam. But when someone says salam to you, you must respond.
Answer. Wa alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
So that means our peace is upon each other. That means
Beautiful.
I will not say anything to harm you. I will not do anything to harm you. I will not see anything that will harm you. I will not hear anything that will harm you. There is nothing I will do that will harm you. And that is what creates good brotherhood, good siblings.
Very nice.
So that is one thing that I wanted to reflect on and share with.
That's excellent. I'm getting that itch now, which is that story itch.
Story time.
I think I'm going to give a double trouble this time.
Oh, wow, nice.
If you allow me.
No, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, okay. So one thing regarding self-development, getting peace in your heart, to yearn to be closer to God. There is one person who was the greatest irfani, the mystic, and the teacher of other mystics. His name was Sayyid Qazi Tabatabai. You've heard about him. It's Allama Tabatabai's teacher. They say that he concentrated on Allah so much on every action that in fact for decades he did not look at any other na-mahram. For decades. You may think that I'm just coming up with a story. No, it is a real thing that Allah prevented his eyes to look at a na-mahram.
Wow.
Because he trained himself as a man not to do, then Allah helped him. You take one step, what does Allah do?
10 steps.
10 steps. So don't think it's impossible. Then I have another story regarding this hijab, about protecting oneself. I believe, and we have been taught, to go to the next level, you need Ahlul Bayt to guide us. I know of a certain lady. This is a personal story. I know of a lady, her life changed. She went to the ziyarah of Bibi Masuma alayhi salam in Qom and met Imam Rida alayhi salam, ziyarat in Mashhad. Upon her arrival back to her home country in Europe, Next day she was supposed to go to work. She was a religious lady, but did she not wear hijab?
Okay.
At work, it stopped her. She couldn't. That night she went to sleep. And she was addicted by ironing her clothes. Middle of the night, a lady speaks to her. Oh, you, have you prepared your clothes for tomorrow? And she said, yes. Have you prepared your hijab for tomorrow? She woke up in shock, in complete shock. And she sat and thought. Next day, she went in with her hijab into work. From that day on, she wore the hijab. And I hear that in her family, the boys and men, they supported her. And that's why she got the boost.
That's amazing.
And this is when I think that is it not the barakah of Ahl al-Bayt, the inspiration of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam?
Very true.
On this night, I would like now that through crying, we ask Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. On the lands of Karbala, Hazrat Abbas is prevented to go to battle. But then he goes to his brother and says, Ya Aba Abdullah, Ya Imam, allow me to go and fetch water for the children who are shouting, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Sakina is crying, she's comforting the other children. And Imam Hussein says, yes, you can go. And he goes to the Furat, the river, and he reaches and he charges through. They see the lion of the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam going. And he reaches the Furat. There when he looks at the water and he wants to drink, but he says, I cannot drink when I hear my niece there crying. And he throws the water away, fills up the mushk, sits on the horse and goes back. But the story doesn't end here because there is a mal'oon hiding behind a tree. And he attacks Hazrat Abbas and one arm is cut off. Then there is another enemy shooting Hazrat Abbas on his forehead. I don't know how a man without one arm can hold the alam and the mashk and ride. Can you think about this? Another person behind another tree cuts his other arm. And the mashk is in the teeth, my brothers. And he rides, but there is another one who shoots an arrow through the mushk and the water drops. That is the point where Hazrat Abbas feels, how can I go back? And then he is attacked and he falls down. I ask you, how can a man fall down without arms? What support did he have? What support? Imam al-Husayn rushes towards his brother and Hazrat Abbas says, I have only one favor. What? I have called you master all my life. Can you call me your brother today? And Imam al-Husayn says farewell to his brother. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Ya Hazrat Abbas, Ya Hazrat Abbas, रोज़े पे बुला लो, बहुत दूर हूँ तुमसे, रोज़े पे बुला लो, शिकवा भी तुम्हीं से है, शिकायत भी تم ہی سے ہر بات میں کہہ سکتا نہیں مولا کسی سے نہیں مولا کسی سے ایک بار تو روزے پہ بلا لیجیے آقا دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤ یا حضرات عباس روزے پہ بلا لو بہت دور ہوں تم سے روزے پہ بلا لو رو رو کے تیرے روزے کی جالی کو بھگو چوکھٹ کو تیری بارہا اشکوں سے میں دوں اشکوں سے میں دوں اے باب حوائج کرو ارمان یہ پورا دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤ یا حضرات عباس روزے پہ بلا لو بہت دور ہوں تم سے روزے پہ بلا لو دنیا میں کہاں تیرے سوا کوئی سہارا جیتے جی اگر دیکھا نہیں روزہ تمہارا نہیں روزہ تمہارا تو دور میں تم سے نہیں رہ پاؤں گا زندہ دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤ یا حضرات عباس روزے پہ بلا لو بہت دور ہوں تم سے روزے پہ بلا لو دیتا ہوں تمہیں واسطہ زینب کی فدا کا اور شام غریبہ میں سکینہ کی صدا کا سکینہ کی صدا کا سن لو میری فریاد کو عباس خدا را دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤ یا حضرات عباس روزے پہ بلا لو بہت دور ہو تم سے روزے پہ بلا لو صلوات علی محمد وآل محمد
اللہم صلی
صلی علی محمد وآل محمد